Hi guys, it's your girl Aisha, aka Geek XX Chic, and we're here with a review today of Hawkeye episode 5 of season 1, which was called, Ronin. I'm like, I know this, it's a one word. It's been that kind of day. So we're doing a review for this episode because, as you would have seen at the beginning of this video, unfortunately, the video file for my reaction got corrupted. I tried everything. I can't figure it out. I could not get it back. So unfortunately, my actual reaction is gone. And if you're new to my channel, just so you know, I always give like first time honest reactions, unless I specifically say that I'm doing a rewatch of something. Like, because I just want it to be real. I want it to be authentic. And yeah, for me to go and re-record the reaction, it just wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't have the same feel. So instead, we're going to do a quick review of the episode so that there's something here for episode 5, because I'm very disappointed that that happened. But, you know, technology sometimes fails us once in a while. So we just got to deal with it. Clint basically realizing that there's a lot of things closing in on him at once. We've got, of course, Maya, who has realized, at least in the beginning of the episode, she just figures that Clint has some kind of connection to the Ronin and she wants to exploit that as best she can to get to her target. He's got the Black Widow assassin that's chasing him that he later finds out is Yelena, aka Natasha's younger sister. Plus he's still got Kate, who's still desperately trying to prove herself to him as a worthy partner, as she put it. But of course, he's really scared now because he realizes that with Black Widow assassins, it's no joke. And he just really wants her to be safe and he really just wants to go home. So there's just so many things that are kind of catching up to Clint, along with the fact that he's just not as young as he used to be. We're starting to see the fatigue set in. You know, he's holding his shoulder. The bruises are piling up. He's just, you know, that moment where he goes to, I can't remember the name, the LARPer's house. You can see he's just exhausted, right? He's just not in it anymore, right? He just really wants to go home and be with his family, but he's realizing that the stakes just keep getting higher and higher, and that the karma for his Ronin days are just getting it's just getting bigger and bigger. And so I think the parts that really stood out to me in this episode were, I really liked that he went and confronted Maya as the Ronin. In the episode, I actually commented that I don't think he did that so much for himself, right? He did it for her, right? Because she's got a very legitimate reason for wanting to hurt the Ronin, and she has a lot of aggression and anger and a very justified revenge, but it's going to eat her alive. And Clint realized that. So him going and fighting her, like, he didn't have to, right? Quite frankly, Clint's got the skills to take Maya out if that's really what he wanted to do. But letting her have that fight and get out that aggression and, really just kind of have that battle, I think was a little bit for her to be able to say that she kind of did that, to be like, okay, I did that for you, Dad. I tried to kick the Ronin's butt. But we saw in that battle that Clint also let her know that, like, he does have the skill set to take her out. He's still a slightly better combatant than she is, but like I said, I'm not counting Maya out. I think that Maya is still very formidable. And now that she got that little bit of a butt kicking from Clint, I think she's going to be far more determined to get herself even higher in skill and ability. But again, as we saw, Clint did not actually take her life. He could have. She really thought that was going to happen, but he basically let her know that, look, I don't want to kill you. I don't want to hurt you. But if you keep coming for me and you keep coming for my family, like, I have to, you're going to push me to do something I don't want to do. And then he, of course, lets her know this huge piece of information, which is that he was tipped off, that the job that he got was from somebody within the organization and that they specifically wanted her father dead, which was clearly news to her. Of course, she said she didn't believe it, but I think she kind of started to register that, like, what reason would Clint have to lie? So anyways, she tries to fight back and she actually does get the drop on Clint, but then we see that Kate shows up, clutch, because she traces his phone once again and manages to save him. And then, of course, he decides to leave. But, of course, Maya's left with some very important questions, which she immediately turns on her right-hand man, aka interpreter. And he acts pretty shady. As soon as she starts questioning him, it turns out he wasn't there the night of the attack and he was supposed to be. So now she's starting to have some questions about the organization. And even if her father was a good man, the reality is that good men can do bad things or get involved in things that aren't great. And when you're involved in a criminal organization, it does happen that you sometimes get stabbed in the back. In fact, quite often, to be perfectly honest. So she's now kind of got some thinking to do for herself. And this is a good thing, obviously, because while, you know, there's a huge moral question that comes up in this episode, of course, around what makes somebody a hero, what makes them a good person. And she may not feel that, like, even if Clint was tipped off by somebody within her father's organization, sure, that means that that person who did it was the bigger culprit, I guess you could say, but Clint still did it, right? So does that really absolve him any? Does he get to be absolved now that she knows that Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, who helped save half the planet, is also the murderer that killed her father? There's a big question there of whether or not he deserves to not get the justice or not get the revenge that's coming to him, not just probably from her. I think if anybody else knew this particular secret, they'd probably feel the same as Maya did. But I do think that the conversation that was had between Yelena and Kate, which was a great conversation, by the way, like the action in this episode was actually quite muted, which I actually didn't mind. I think it gave us an opportunity to get that much needed storytelling and dialogue. And I love the scene between Kate and Yelena. The actresses bounced off each other so well. I love the actress who plays Yelena. I really do. Like, I'm sorry. I like her so much more than Natasha. I said it. I'm sorry. For Natasha fans out there, that's how I feel. That conversation that they had was really poignant, in my opinion, because we have Yelena basically telling Kate that the man that she thinks she knows is not him, and that he can't just be a hero because people say he's a hero, right? She said, like, you know, I'm Natasha's sister. He's the reason why she's dead. He did a lot of horrible things as the Ronin. Just because he said he's a hero doesn't mean that he is one. His actions are saying otherwise. I think this is a good conversation for both of them because, for one, for Kate, I do think she's got blinders on where Clint's concerned. You know, she's got that hero worship, putting him on a pedestal, and Clint has been trying, like, consistently to let her know that he does not belong up there. But I don't think it, again, usually when heroes are elevated somewhere, it's not for the hero, it's for the people who are elevating them. They want someone to look to, they want someone to have hope in, or who represents hope for themselves. But I think she kind of needed to hear it from somebody else, from a different perspective, and just that wake up call that Clint's not perfect and no hero is perfect either. And it's not enough just to say you're a hero or put on a costume or be part of the Avengers. You need to have actions that line up with what you say you are, or what people say you are. And in this particular case, those 5 years of Clint, well, we don't know if it was a full 5 years, but whatever amount of time that he was the Ronin, he definitely was not acting like a hero. A hero does not take out vigilante justice on people, no matter how deserving that they are. And so that's something that Kate's going to have to come to grips with, but she then counters and lets Yelena know, which I think is good for Yelena, because Yelena, growing up the way that she did, she has a very different viewpoint of black and white, good and evil. She understands the gray, of course, as a mercenary, but she also, I think, thinks when it comes to heroes or the people who were around her sister, I think she has a very high standard for what she thinks was good or bad. And the fact that Clint let her die, that's something that she thinks is very black and white. But of course, she wasn't there. She does not know what happened. She does not know that Natasha made that decision for the both of them. And hearing Kate basically say to her, like, yeah, okay, you got a point about the actions, but I'm telling you, like, Clint as a person, his essence, his core, he's a good man. And I think you know that. I don't think your sister would have been friends with him till the end if he wasn't a good man. So they both gave each other something to think about. It's not exactly a clear-cut thing, but again, that morality issue is kind of the theme of this episode. And we see that Yelena's not quite ready to let go of her plot just yet. I think she really just wants answers, to be perfectly honest. And even I think if she saw how Clint feels about it, we saw it in the episode, Clint still breaks down just talking about Natasha all these years later. Like, it's clear that he's still suffering. So I think if she saw that, she'd maybe start to understand that while it sucked that it turned out the way that it did, he's no more happy or over it than she is. So anyway, that conversation to me was one of the best parts of the episode by far. And of course, we hear that Yelena says, okay, like, I don't want to hurt you, but if you get in my way, I will take you out. Again, I don't actually think she'll do that either. I think she actually likes Kate. I think she respects the hustle. But then we see as the episode goes on as well that Jack is now going to jail. Mom checked out the lead that Kate gave her, which I didn't mention, but of course Kate in the episode told her mother that about Jack owning the shell company, and Jack gets arrested and mom says, oh yeah, I checked into it. I did what you said. And Jack is very calm and he just keeps saying, this is not true. Like, I'm being framed. I'll be back by dinner. And her mother is, surprisingly unfazed by this. I think that if I found out that the man that I thought I was going to marry was potentially a crime lord, I'd be a lot more upset than her mother seemed to be, especially since she was so lovey-dovey with him last episode. So I do think he was framed, and I do think it was her mother. More and more of her mom, just the behaviors her mother exhibits, especially even in the episode where Kate comes to her crying and upset about the fact that Clint's basically told her to leave him alone. Her mom gives her like 2 seconds of a boo-hoo, then she's like, oh, don't worry, I know exactly what you're going to do. I know who you're going to become. It's no big deal. Like, it's my biggest issue with her character is that she's so dismissive of who Kate is, and that even though that's the only parent that Kate has, she just literally has no idea what her daughter is like. And just like I said a couple episodes ago, it becomes abundantly clear why Kate was closer to her dad than she was to her mother. Because there's just, even now, her mom doesn't really make any attempt to get to know her on a personal level. The arrest happens and it seems like it should be a win, but earlier in the episode, Clint actually tells his wife on a phone call when he explains to her that, like, I got to try to wrap this up yet again. I don't know if I'm going to be home. He lets her know exactly how bad the situation is. And like I said, I love their dynamic as a couple. I love that he can be completely honest with her. And he tells her straight up, like, I think that the big guy is going to get involved. And the big guy, we've heard him referenced, I think, one episode previous where they mentioned that. And I saw in the comments and, of course, online, a lot of people speculating that it would be Kingpin. And we got verification thanks to Yelena sending a picture to Kate to basically say, oh, by the way, the person who hired me to kill your hero was your mother. So maybe you don't know anything about any of the people that are around you. And of course, she doesn't know who is in the picture, but we see when they show us the picture that it is indeed Kingpin. And from what I could see, the picture wasn't the biggest, but it looked to me like it was Vincent D'Onofrio, which I love because I really loved him playing Kingpin in Netflix's version of Daredevil, which if you've not seen that, I strongly recommend you do. It's a fantastic series. And that makes sense if that's the case, because they did announce that they are going to be doing a Daredevil project. I can't remember if it's a movie or a series, but that they are going to be doing it, and that Charlie Cox has been signed on as Daredevil again, which I'm so thankful for, because Charlie was chef's kiss. He did such a good job with the role on Netflix, and I'm glad that they decided to keep him in. But anyway, yeah, so that was kind of a cool reveal at the end. I'm wondering what that means for future potentially series or movies that we're incorporating some more of the New Yorkers, the Daredevil characters, because the Daredevil world's got quite a few characters in it that are very interesting. I'm hoping that this means that we're going to get more of those series, because I really liked all of the Netflix series that they did for the Marvel characters. Well, shy of Iron Fist. Iron Fist was a bit of a meh for me, but the other three were all amazing. So if they decide to delve into that in the MCU as well, or on Disney Plus, I'm 1000% here for it. But yeah, that's kind of how we ended the episode, with Kate understanding now that her mom is keeping secrets and that there might be things going down with her, and that, she's been looking directly at Jack the entire time, but maybe she should have been looking a little closer to home. And then Clint realizing that his fear that the big guy was going to get involved has in fact come true. And things are just getting super complicated now. So it really makes me wonder what we could possibly be doing in the final episode, because there's only 6 episodes this season. So how they're going to wrap this up in the next episode, I have no idea, or if they're even going to. Like, maybe this just might end up being a big cliffy, but I'm really looking forward to it, whatever it turns out to be, because I know it's going to be great. So that's pretty much my review for the episode. I thought it was fantastic as usual. Again, so sorry that I don't have the reaction. These things happen, but hopefully it won't happen again anytime soon. If you liked watching this, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up, and we will see you in the next video.